Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2-point conversion Monday Night Football pregame show. I know someone on their Friday show is giving me heck for changing the name all the time, so yeah, I'll say that again. The 2-point conversion Monday Night Football pregame show with injury analysis and our logo in the side corner. 2-point conversion, going for two. That's where we're at, goingfor2.com, and we're all people who are at going for two. Did I say the title enough, Dan?
Gonna throw it in there a few more times. We've still got another hour to go. I reckon you can get
So I need to say it 2 more times at least.
Just before every segment you can. Anytime you've got lost in your train of thought, just throw out a plug.
All right, so another going for 2-point conversion co-host is all right. I'll stop at that. But Gladys, how are you doing?
Happy to be on the going for 2-point conversion Monday pregame show with injury analysis from Doc.
Yeah, Dr. James Reddy.
Got it all in there.
I'm back. Did you guys miss me? I was gone for a week. Did you miss me? I missed you guys.
Where did you go?
I didn't really go anywhere. I went to my cousin's wedding, and I just got back too late, and I wasn't going to be able to do anything.
Was it an open bar?
I plead the fifth.
So Dr. Disappear, we'll say, from last week. But thanks for reappearing.
Doc was out.
Doc back.
At the open bar.
Doc was out with he was out with the liver. There we go.
Yeah, exactly. I had a grade 2 liver injury. So wasn't able to be here.
Oh yeah, isn't that what happened? What held Keenan Allen out for a year? No, that was a spleen, I guess.
Oof.
Not a liver.
Andrew Luck as well.
Not the same
thing. Yeah, Andrew Luck for sure. I think it was kidney, but he was pretty messed up before he retired. Like he lacerated his kidney and then played a few more years after that and then retired. So
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and Keenan Allen's all healthy now. And
yeah, or is he?
Anyway, yeah, we'll talk injuries in a bit. Dan, any declarations you want to make from Discord? Dan, anything about the worst 6-1 team ever in NFL history, bar none, without a doubt, the most awful worst team ever.
Hashtag week 8 road underdog. Like that's where we're at. Road underdog in Seattle again. No one likes us, and we don't care. It's wonderful.
The New York Rodney Dangerfield. They don't get no respect at all.
None.
I
I
could
understand.
see the underdog last week. Like I could see. I couldn't see the underdog last week. I can see the underdog
this week. I get it. In Seattle, they're the top of their division, right? Seattle. So I understand.
Well,
they're doing all right.
Team with a winning record.
I get it. We would do to come up against one of them, but you play enough games, hopefully come up against someone that's won one. But I think look at what the team did yesterday. Like, my God, Daniel Jones 200 yards passing, 100 rushing. Saquon went bananas. I mean, it's very what they lacked last year was fight, and that last play on the goal line was everything that you want to see from them.
That's what winning teams do. Honestly,
it's the 1%ers, the 1% plays, right? All those 1%ers add up, and you do that every time, and it builds and it builds and it builds, and before you know it, you're ahead of where you really should be when you look back. So again, I'll go back and say it. They have to lose. They've got the bye week. They will be a 500 team until week 13 now. So, when you think about it, it's only 4 games. They have to lose every game up until week 13. And then there's 4 games to go to not make the playoffs the way the rest of the NFC is going.
That's a spirit.
That's wild. There goes every decent player we thought we could draft. But it's okay. We'll get there. But listen, one of our teams on this show has to be doing well, right?
Hey, the Raiders.
Raiders won yesterday. The Raiders won yesterday.
For your information, sir.
Congratulations at 2-4. Very good.
I'll take it.
Yeah. No, I like the Raiders. I really wish they did better. It's a shame.
You and me both.
I
have a question for you. I wanted to ask about this because this to me is maddening. Like, this is maddening. Even as a fantasy football player, as a fan, like, there have been people, like, when the Giants were like 3-1, like, people were saying, like, this team's not going anywhere. Like, they're hurting themselves because they're not getting a better draft pick because they're not tanking. Like, what are you doing? What is this binary, like, garbage? How about, like, teams that aren't supposed to do well, like, they do well, And sometimes they could even win the Super Bowl. Like, isn't that what it's all about? Isn't it about winning? Like, what is this BS about? Like, we're going to get a good draft pick and be good in 3 years. How about we're good right now? How about we're good right now? Let's play to win right now.
Well, I mean, the Giants aren't really good. There's that. If you've watched it, listen, jokes aside, I think a lot of the Giants fans will sit on that side. And I joke about it, obviously, a fair bit. The reason for it is because they didn't pick up Jones's option, and they have to pay Barkley, I guess. So there's a lot of problems on that side of it where, as nice as this is, there's still limbo coming very quickly because you either have to pay Jones a lot of money, and if you tag him, it's 31 mil, or you're going to pay him a contract if you're sure he's going to stick around for another 3, 4, 5 years, or you're going to draft one. And we're seeing what those draft picks can do. You have to get them early. And with Philly holding a top 5 pick at the moment, that's going to be awfully hard to come up and get. So a lot of it for the Giants at this point is they're in two minds because we've seen how bad it has been, and it hasn't been good for a while. And accepting nice things isn't really, Jim, you know this, it's a New York, New Jersey thing. We don't really like nice things.
That is fair.
There's a lot of things that we don't like. Happiness is one of them. So it's 100% easy just to hate what's going on, because if we draft a rookie and he's terrible, we're still happy within our hatred. It's wonderful. It's the greatest edge of all time. So there's that, but again, it's not like they're playing with Golladay and Tony and Shepard and lighting teams up. It's literally, we're going to bore you to death for the first 3 quarters, and then let's see how we can reel this one back in the fourth. But if we want to take
anything, except for the Buffalo Bills, everyone is doing that.
Right,
except for the Bills, everyone is doing that.
But for a team as bad as what ours has been, it's really weird to see the shoe on our foot. But if you look at it, this is what Tennessee was doing last year with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. This is my comp to it. Like, their defense was getting things done, even though you wouldn't think they did, because they had some losses last year. But it was on the back of Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill was managing maybe 180 to 200 pass yards a game. If they can do that, then if they can keep their heads on and have a bit of luck health-wise, they might make some noise at the end of the season towards a run at the playoffs. I still don't know how they're going to. I mean, their draw is weak as hell, but
what about in 2011 or 2012? Like, they weren't supposed to beat Green Bay. Sorry, Kyle. They weren't supposed to beat San Fran either. And they won the frigging Super Bowl. So
again,
like,
it's one of those things where
I have so many thoughts and so many questions about that, but I don't want to make it into like a bigger scope thing. But it's like, let's just look at it from an injury perspective. It's like, okay, so you get a better draft pick, and let's say the pick doesn't bust. Like, let's say he's amazing, like Breece Hall. Oops. Now he tore his ACL and you're SOL, right? So like, this idea of like, we're going to get a draft pick and we're going to get this great player in the future who could be amazing. Well, he could also get hurt and you could get left with empty pockets, but you have a running back right now who, maybe you have to pay him, but like, this is my question for everybody. It's like, when players get paid, it's like, win, why is there a feeling it's your money? It's not your money. So like, why does it personally affect you? Like, so somebody gets paid, so what? Like, enjoy the fact that they're winning. I don't know. That's my rant. So it's like, you guys do rants every week. I wanted to take a rant. Live in the present. Be happy when things are going well, because guess what? Things are probably going to go shitty at some point, and then you'll have plenty of time to be unhappy about it. So there you go.
Well, speaking of Breece Hall, I mean, I think that's definitely where Shane Manila's talking here. Hey, Doc, why hasn't medical science found a way to instantly heal ACL tears? I guess that's his rant. I have to blame someone, and I blame you, so it's all on you, Doc.
That feels true to me. So but, I take the blame for that. I will get on that, and
do better.
I feel like I'll have a solution by next week, the latest.
Do better. Why is there coming to can? You can just spray your knee back together.
That's it.
But as Shane's Twitter handle says, I mean, this is the worst. Breece Hall tearing his ACL, done for the year.
You're amazing.
So we can kind of transition into injury talk, and yay, our best time. And yeah, Shane's definitely not the worst.
Shane is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. But so ACL, but I guess also announced today that he also tore his meniscus. And I think Dan posed this question in the show sheet, I assume. Doc, is this more similar to Saquon Barkley's injury a couple of years ago than it was J.K. Dobbins' injury last year?
It's actually not as bad as it sounds. I mean, the injury triad or the unhappy triad with ACL injuries is usually ACL, MCL, and medial meniscus. So it's really not uncommon for there to be multiple injuries when you injure the ACL. So this really doesn't change anything for me. I wouldn't necessarily call this a complex ACL tear. I think with J.K. Dobbins, I have to go back and look at it, so don't quote me on this, but I think there was a complex component to it where there's something else called the posterior lateral corner, which is a different type of injury. And I think there may have been a component of that makes it a more complex injury that adds to the instability. It's a more complicated surgery. So that's one aspect of it that they look for. But for you guys out there to not get too deep into the weeds of the medical jargon just yet, having a meniscus injury with an ACL tear is really not that uncommon, and it doesn't really add that much to it. Like they'll go in, they'll fix the meniscus, they'll fix the ACL. It doesn't really raise any red flags for me. As
not raising any alarms.
Yeah, really. Who is that? Are the Giant fans coming to take me away because I want them to be happy? Is that what it is?
No.
But it doesn't change anything for me. I think there's no guarantees with anything, but assuming a successful surgery, and we'll talk about him right now. Actually, estimation for him coming back, assuming successful surgery, about July or August. So it may be like Saquon Barkley in the sense that he starts a little slower and gets a chance to ramp up over the first couple of weeks. But long-term wise, as long as his surgery and his recovery is successful, like we saw with Joe Burrow and Saquon Barkley and tons of other players, I'm not really worried about his long-term outlook at all, really.
What complicated things last year for Barkley was he suffered a separate injury. So he came back and was ineffective, then suffered a different injury. It was an ankle injury and then missed time. So people kind of view all last year as a lost season, but it was, that the ankle injury could have happened to anyone who was healthy as well. So had he had the chance to kind of not suffer that injury, he might have finished the season strong and recovered.
And the thing in there is he was actually starting to look good when he injured his ankle. Like he started out slow, but his production was ramping up and he was starting to look like Saquon, and then boom, got the other injury, and that was that. So we don't know what that was going to look like, but this year we see what he's doing, and he's been amazing up to this point. So like knock on wood, that continues for the Giants and for everybody that rosters him's sake. But like this is the Saquon that we expected last year that we didn't get, but now we're getting it.
So Joel's here. Mr. Scampers came knocking in as well.
Guys.
Saying good afternoon.
Hey, Doc.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't Mac Jones start tonight? Isn't he better?
Why wouldn't he start? I thought he was starting.
Yeah.
Not starting?
I thought he was too.
Is he not?
Okay, so we'll get to Joel's question here. I was going to wait a little bit for that, but because I didn't want to keep talking about the Jets, but we'll jet on back eventually. Hey, everyone, I have Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi to choose from tonight. Who do you think will play more? I'm going against Justin Fields. The pick is going to determine if I win or lose.
The Patriots defense is going to determine whether you win or lose.
Yeah,
regardless of who starts at quarterback, I like your chances, but we'll get there.
Well, yeah. So I think we could answer real quick, though. I think we're all under the impression that Mac Jones is going to play this entire game.
That's the last I heard.
Bearing like a setback to an injury. So, Joel, I think we're all going to just say go Mac Jones. I mean, if everything goes as planned for them, Bailey Zappi is going to get you a 0 and not play at all. Or he'll get you some negative points on kneel downs at the end of the game.
Right. Or he'll get garbage time handing off to Ramondre and Damian Harris and whoever else they decide to run.
He might have some upside rushing if you're thinking that, like, okay, like he might run for some yards at the end of the game. But no, I think we're all in agreement to play.
Does a high ankle sprain have a high recurrence?
Whoever starts quarterback, play that person.
Does a high ankle sprain have a high reoccurrence of being injured? Like he's been out for 3 weeks with it, right?
Yeah, it really only affects you. It affects you more, I should say, when you're trying to move laterally, and he's not the most mobile sort to begin with. So it really affects players like Lamar Jackson. Russell Wilson had one. It really affected him. But there have been other players that, I think Byron Leftwich had a high ankle sprain in the game that he was playing, and the lineman
when they carried him. Yeah, I remember that.
And he still managed to lead them on a game-winning drive. So you can certainly play with it, provided you're just kind of moving back and then throwing the ball. It's not ideal, but
maybe that's the problem in Tampa. Maybe Brian Leftwich has to get off the sideline and actually start throwing passes. Maybe they'll win there.
I know Daniel Jones had the ankle injury when he was playing in London, but he was playing against Green Bay, so it didn't matter too much.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a
Shots
Swiss
fired.
cheese defense.
Shots
I know,
fired, everyone.
right?
Shots fired.
I mean, they just lost to Washington.
What shots?
They lost to the Jets by 3 scores. They're on 3-game losing streak to 3 teams that haven't made the playoffs in like a half decade. I'm just kidding. Washington was in the playoffs 2 years ago.
They were.
With a losing record, which
they really were.
I mean, I feel like we're gonna maybe see something like that in a specific division this year. AFC South. Anyway, AFC East though looking pretty great. The Jets do have a winning record, and unfortunately, not just suffering the injury or not just having Breece Hall suffer an injury, but their offense also losing Corey Davis with an MCL and / knee injury. So MCL, is it a full tear, Doc, or a little bit of piece of paper, maybe just a grade 1?
Oh, I saw that last week. You bunch of slanderous scoundrels. Anyway,
alliteration's awesome.
I was really proud of that segment. By the way, I'll have
that was a great segment. I enjoyed it.
It's been our favorite segment from the year. That's why we keep referencing it, to be honest.
I could tell.
Hey, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, no, listen.
Comment and join the chat.
I was there in spirit. So Corey Davis, the MCL sprain, severity unclear at this point. My suspicion is it's a grade 1, so no actual tearing of the fibers. But it still could cost them a couple of weeks, 1 to 2 weeks. For what it's worth, this is the interesting part. Their bye week is week 10. So do they hold him out until then? I don't know. It's a possibility. So you guys to be on the lookout for updates for that, because it's still unclear as to how they're going to manage at this point. It could be anywhere from he could play in week 8, or he could be all the way out until week 11. Or if we find out that it's worse based on the MRI, then he could be out even longer. But it's really unclear at this point. Yes,
super hard to gauge that, because obviously Elijah Moore put in the trade request, right?
Yeah,
so how does
whatever? I mean,
he's back.
Leverage,
he's back.
Like
that. They just said he's back on the team. He's active. He rescinded his trade request. He's active. They're all kissing and hugging and braiding each other's hair. Yeah, I mean, he's back now.
He's like,
because Hall and Davis are injured, they didn't have another choice.
Probably because
you're going to get targets. We guarantee you'll get targets.
We're not. No it's like he has no leverage. Like it's like he's like, I'm unhappy with my role, and that would be like the equivalent of like you're working at McDonald's and you're like, hey, I'm unhappy with my role as the cashier, so I demand a trade to Burger King, and they're like, listen. Like, if you don't like it, take a seat and, go home. Like, you have no leverage here. What do you want?
I was going to say, it'd be like someone hosting a show, like on a Friday night, or usually about 8:30 p.m. and just complaining about the music and no production value and the logos and nothing gets done, though. And all they can do is complain.
Where's my music, Jeff?
You really should just plug the show. That's the whole point, Jeff. You got to plug the show. Now's your chance.
You talk about the sponsor, Jeff, because
it's funny.
Hashtag GF2. First deposit match, $100.
That's true. That's our underdog promo, as Doc so quickly put. And underdog picks is what Dan does on Friday nights. In fact, so
it's an amazing show. I love it every time. I laugh so hard.
It's arguably the most entertaining sports show out there.
It's fantastic.
I will say, I love these guys. Shane Manila, the Dynasty Trades HQ crew. Those guys are hilarious. Shane's funny, and like Dan's right up there in terms of like the entertainment value and hilarity of it. So I'll always watch. If I can't catch it live, I'm always rewatching that.
You know what the scary thing is? A lot of the time, I'm also right. That gets lost.
It's good advice, people.
We don't want to like not mention that. Like that's really important. Like you make a lot of good picks, but the entertainment value is right there. There's quality and there's entertainment. Like that's.
It'll be like
that's amazing.
I'll go back through it on a Monday morning. Like, no, I got that right. Well, Davis Mills did throw an intercept. Yep, that happened. Like, what are we gonna do? It's like, well.
So give them the formal plug. Let the people know. Let the people know where you are on Friday night so they can tune in, because it's definitely worth your time. It reminds me of like the good old days of when you and Izzy Ortiz used to do the Back Row Giants show, and oh my God, those shows are frigging hilarious. Like, I don't know, you weren't making any real picks on those shows, but the entertainment value, like this rivals that. And you're doing it solo. So let the people know where they can find
that. Show's highlight is reacting to a player getting arrested. So like, I mean, like it was wild. But this is definitely a lot more
let the people know where you are Friday nights on Going for Two.
If he was like gardening on a Friday night, I'd have him join me, but he's too busy like gardening. I can't get him away from the garden.
Well,
we
all got priorities, but let the people know where you are. Friday nights Going for Two.
I'm on a Friday night. I am. I do an underdog prop show, similar to what we will do for a short, brief period of time tonight, where we all get to make a pick. I generally make picks on the morning, afternoon, and evening. And yeah, I panic for 30 minutes and I get by very, very quickly. It's great. Do you want to see someone drowning in real life without water? Friday night.
I totally disagree. It may seem like organized chaos, but you go through all the games, you give the props, the entertainment value off the charts. It's hilarious. It's informative. I mean, you need to watch this show. And the best part is just the amount of shit talking that you do on Jeff Lambert, the founder of Going for Two. Like, that's worth it in and of itself right there.
Can I tell you?
Because he has no ability to fight back. He's just a target.
I mean, he could join and comment and defend himself that way.
Let me tell you something. I had technical problems on Friday, and instead of being mad, I was like, great, I've got more material. We had to go at Jeff for this. It's not his fault that the Wi-Fi is not working, but it is tonight. Like, right now, it's his problem.
Which the craziest thing is that Jeff is one of the nicest, most caring people, not just in the industry, but that I think I've ever met. And the fact that you just use him as a pinata every week, it just makes it like that much worse. It's like, I would, if you went after me like that, on some level, I feel like I would kind of get that. But going after Jeff like that, it just doesn't compute, and it just, for some reason, it makes it that much funnier because he's such a nice guy. Like, he doesn't come back at you and be like, hey, you know what, B-League, you're a real whatever. Like, he takes it like with such class, and you just keep firing away. I mean, I don't get it, but it's hilarious.
It's just fish in a barrel, isn't it? Just
it is
fish in a barrel. Yeah.
You think it would be fish in a barrel.
You think it wouldn't be fun after a while, but I tell you what.
Apparently, that's not the case because you keep going back to it and it just keeps getting funnier. So
100%.
But to be fair, we do owe Jeff a lot. I mean, setting up goingfor2.com, setting up the Going for Two live channel on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. By the way, if you're watching the video on Twitter, for instance, we can't see your comments. If you do want to ask your questions, comments, like Mr. Scamper's question here, that we will address in a sec, talking about J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. But all that courtesy of Jeff. And yeah, so subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the notification bell, and you'll get the live alerts, not just for Dan's show on Fridays, but Friday night's doubleheader with the Armchair show afterwards as well, which Jeff, it's funny because Jeff's got to go on after hearing all those insults that Dan spews his way. It doesn't rattle him at all, though. True professional, does that DFS show great. But yeah, so Mr. Scamper's question, you didn't miss anything about Dobbins and Gus Edwards. We wanted to touch on the Jets first, but yeah, I think good moment to talk about them now. So Doc, what do we know about Dobbins? I know he was inactive this week, and it seems like a setback, and he'll be. Was he placed on IR officially?
He was, yeah. So he had some sort of. I don't know if the issue is clear as to what procedure he needed on his knee, but his knee tightened up in quote unquote tightened up in week 6. That opened the door for Kenyon Drake to have a resurgent game. And J.K. Dobbins subsequently got placed on IR, so he's going to be out at least the next 3 weeks. And for those of you like just how fantasy football works, it was like Kenyon Drake was like the quick and exciting ad at running back this week, and then Gus the Bus Edwards makes an appearance, and basically life comes at you fast. It was like Kenyon Drake, everybody that had like the number 1 waiver pick, it's like he rushed for whatever he did, he got a touchdown in week 6. Oh, he got Kenyon Drake, and then Gus Edwards is back, promptly rushes for 2 touchdowns, kind of takes over the lead in the backfield, and now he seems to be the hot ticket. And we've seen this before from him. Like, that's the thing. Like, the Ravens, for better or for worse, like, they want to run the ball. And Gus Edwards has been a big part of that when he's been on the field the last couple of years. And it looks like he's back, and he's going to be a major contributor to that. So
2 years ago, Dobbins' rookie season, Dobbins had a good rookie season. He was being used, but Gus Edwards was still fantasy relevant week in, week out, and productive. And they were both, they both had good touchdown upside, and both were getting a lot of carries. So now without J.K. Dobbins, that kind of unleashes almost an upside on Gus Edwards we haven't seen yet. And obviously the ACL tear complicated that last year. That was a life comes at you fast situation, right? 1 week Dobbins goes down, everyone's like, okay, Gus Edwards, he goes down, Justice Hill, then he goes down like 3 weeks in a row, and that's why they were starting Latavius Murray and Devontae Freeman at running back last year. But it's Gus Edwards, one of the highest priority waiver pickups this week if he is available.
Yep, totally agree.
Now, with the Chargers, Mike Williams suffering an ankle injury. I thought I'd read reports of high ankle sprain, so we know what that means, right? This is especially this far into the season. I know I'm in one of Jeff Lambert, and again, on top of doing all the going for two stuff and found all that, he creates the zombie leagues, and I'm in one of Jeff's zombie leagues, and I've got Mike Williams and short benches and the need to kind of need players now. I'd consider cutting him this week, to be honest.
Well, you know the story. Like, we've talked about it a bunch. So it's like now that you're coming from the position of like you're actually in the position of you need to make a decision. So they are on a bye. We know it's a high ankle sprain. So given the fact that we've been working together for 2.5 years and you read my book and all that stuff, like, what do you say at this point? Like, when would you expect him to be back, and what are you going to do about it?
Probably, if he could maybe be back in a month, but probably won't be too effective that those first couple of weeks. So you're looking at probably you want to wait 6 weeks, and then that's when you can expect he'll be back and productive. So 6 weeks from now, that's week 14. Like that's the verge of the fantasy playoffs. And that one particular zombie league, I think I'll be 6-1. Yeah, I'm 6-1. Got the win this week. So like that's maybe a team I could in theory afford to hold him on, but that's one where if you face a zombie. And unfortunately, in our league, there's like 8 of the 12 managers are zombies now. So like you're almost going to be facing a zombie every week. Like one loss is catastrophic to your team, and you drop most of your starting lineup.
Right.
Your opponent steals one, you can keep another, and then the rest of your starting lineup you drop. And then zombies have extra privileges. They anyone who's not a zombie can only pick up players on Tuesday. Zombies have Tuesday and Saturday. And then obviously the idea, if you beat someone as a zombie, you can steal one of their players, but it's still not something I want to have to deal with this year. And so it's kind of like in that league, you can't really afford even 1 week off. And if I need that extra roster spot to pick up a player somewhere to fill up, I can't take a 0 anywhere. Mike Williams is gone, I think. So
yeah, so definitely league dependent. It definitely depends on your situation. Like a 6-1 team, like you said, you might be able to ride it out for a couple of for 3 to 4 to 5 weeks, whatever it is, and then your eye is already, if you're 6-1, like you're already looking towards the playoffs. So that's the type of team where I would be more inclined to hold him and then hope that he comes back. He doesn't re-injure it. It's not severe enough that he needs surgery, and there's no guarantees with anything, but the idea is like you want Mike Williams to be back and have a week to ramp up before your fantasy playoffs, because that's what a 6-1 team is looking at. If you're 2-4 or you're 3-3 and you're kind of like, and it's a redraft league and you're like, I'm not sure if I'm even going to make it. Like that's when you got to start thinking seriously about making moves like that, where you're like, this guy's not going to help me for a month. He's on a bye. I got to let him go. I got to make some other moves. I got to shake some things up. I got to get some production because I got to win these games. I can't sit around and lose 2 or 3 of them, and then I'm done for the year. And it doesn't matter if he comes back at that point.
And then I think the consequence of that in terms of, we'd expect Keenan Allen to be back healthy after the bye week starting week 9. But Josh Palmer was out this week with, I think, was a concussion.
Yeah.
Again,
I think Palmer will be back. I think DeAndre Carter has been good. I think Keenan Allen, given the bye week, like they surprised that they played him, but he didn't overly exert himself. Doesn't look like he didn't re-injure himself. So would expect him to pick up a lot more of that slack given, 2 weeks from now. So, that's going to change the landscape, but I think Josh Palmer, DeAndre Carter definitely have a lot of value coming out of the bye. Given Keenan Allen's kind of questionable status, even though I think he is going to play and I think he is going to be productive, but Mike Williams almost certainly is going to be out. So that elevates those guys. And, Austin Eckler has just been a beast. But Gerald Everett gets a bump.
Yep.
Like,
Donald Parham,
he's still injured too as well. Injury. So that offense could be ascending at this point. So there you go.
Apparently a room full of goats. Thanks, Yeti. But question here from Eric Figueroa: should I trade Michael Pittman to get Gabe Davis and DeAndre Hopkins?
Should I trade Pittman and have Davis for Hopkins?
Yeah,
I think is that supposed to be and Gabe Davis for Hopkins? So Pittman and Davis for Hopkins? Yeah, there we go. I don't know. I'm gonna jump in right here.
I see. Sorry, I was interpreting it.
Me. No.
Yeah, I know, because I was interpreting it as Pittman for Davis and Hopkins, in which case I could see that, like giving away Pittman to get the 2 for 1. But yeah, I know if you're giving away Pittman plus something else for Hopkins, I think Pittman's the most valuable piece. So I think like that's the side where you want to be on the 2-for-1 and Pittman's on the one side. That would be the fairest way, right? I know the Colts are going to have a quarterback switch. We'll touch on that, but Dan seems like he wants to say something and not just write his thoughts down. I got
my thoughts somewhere. If this was redraft, with Erlinger coming in, I get it after what Hopkins did, but Gabe Davis is like, he's a league winner, right? Like that's crazy. No, that's a no.
Gladys, you do this trade?
No, I would not do this trade.
There you go,
Pittman and Davis.
I got my DB league. I got my Matt Patricia pencil here for you.
You're way better than Matt Patricia, though. I'd actually trust you to run a football team over him.
Oh, jeez. Well, I mean, thank
you. It's a low bar, to be honest.
Yeah, that is fair. That is fair. It's a low bar. So,
but which makes sense to why the Lions would hire him. It's such a low bar franchise. But yeah, God. At least Packers, as bad as they are, we can still look down on the Lions. I mean, man, those guys are pathetic. So like that feels good. At least there's some things that are still right in the universe. But yeah, I guess we'll get right back on track. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, returning from injury, suffered a concussion, or it seems like. I know. I guess Dan Campbell kind of said some things, but again. Lions organization. What a transition there, right? So what do we know about Amon-Ra?
Well, it seems like it's a quick story. Upon further review, no concussion. It was just he came out of the game because he was on the borderline and they weren't sure. So they erred on the side of caution. Imagine that. The NFL erring on the side of caution for once. So given everything that we talked about a few weeks ago with concussions, they held him out of the game. Looks like he doesn't have a concussion. So he should be fine, assuming there's no other injuries that he's dealing with. So that's actually good news. So there you go.
All right. So I guess we're past 7:30. So Doc, you want to do some rapid fire now?
Oh, we can definitely do some rapid fire.
The first one I want to start with is because we were talking about Pittman and the Sam Ehlinger starting. So if maybe this is a little less rapid fire, but we can start with Matt Ryan. Sure. Just in like the situation there, Matt Ryan looks like he's out with the shoulder injury, but it's also being reported that this isn't just a benching for injury. This is a performance-based benching, and it sounds like the expectation is Sam Ehlinger will be the starter the rest of the season, which is to me seems like a strange declaration to make.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if he's awful, Nick Foles could definitely start games, but it looks like now
the fix is in. Colts are tanking. The fix is in.
The Colts are trying to get Connor Bedard as well.
They're tanking.
Seems like everyone wants. It doesn't even matter if it's the wrong sport. It seems like everyone tank for Connor Bedard. I'm just kidding.
I mean, that seems kind of harsh. Like just looking at like how his game went, he completed 33 passes. He threw 44, he got a touchdown and 2 interceptions, but like a week ago it was like, oh, Matt Ryan's back, like against Jacksonville, 3 touchdowns, almost 400 yards. So I was kind of surprised. Like, okay, he's got a grade 2 AC joint injury. Like that's bad. And we could talk about that. But the fact that Frank Reich had apparently seen enough and planned to make Sam Ehlinger the starter going forward regardless. I don't know. It's something about that just doesn't add up. I wonder if there's more there as far as like something else might be happening there. I don't know.
Is Matt Ryan a worse leader than Carson Wentz? Because he didn't get benched for Sam Ehlinger last year.
Well, that's rough. There's certainly nothing coming out of that, from Atlanta, and they were really excited to get him. So I don't know.
All these recycled
something doesn't smell right there. I don't know.
All these recycled veteran quarterbacks aren't working. It's not.
I said
to be fair, every time they do this, they buy Frank Reich another year. There's nothing keeping him accountable to his own quarterback.
Okay.
That's why I don't know. See, here's a question I have, because it's like, what do they say? Like whenever you point the finger out, like you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. So here's the question that I got to ask: could Frank Reich actually be the problem here?
No. Yes, but they won't do it.
I don't know.
They won't pull I think they love him. I think him and the GM, what's his name? I forget his name. Chris Ballard. They love those two. So I don't think that's going to be something that changes anytime.
Yeah, well,
soon.
I mean,
I think World War II,
the Italians love Mussolini. Like that didn't necessarily work out good for everybody. Like, so I don't know. Like at a certain point, you got to evaluate people for what they're doing and not necessarily like how they're perceived. I realize that's a stretch, but I'm not comparing Frank Reich to Mussolini. I'm just saying. Like,
yes,
they love
thank you
him,
for that. Thanks for clarifying that one.
But you got to look at the results.
I don't know. Matt Patricia, on the other hand, I think
denominator?
might be better. Okay.
What's the common denominator there? I'm just saying, could he be the issue? I don't know, but it raises a question for me because something here is not adding up. So what's going on?
I've said it from the start. They should have just kept Jacoby Brissett the whole time. Instead of just trying to go with Phillip Rivers and Wentz, they would have spent way less draft capital. He might have actually had some consistency and developed over that time. And look at that. The Browns seem to be, I guess, doing as good as the Colts are this year. I think they both have 3 wins. Actually, no, never mind. The Browns don't have 3 wins.
I give them credit for trying, like they're trying things, but Carson Wentz is on the IR, but he had some good games in Washington. So it's like, yeah, it's easy to throw dirt on him and say he's the problem. Like Matt Ryan, was pretty successful in Atlanta with the exception of last year. So it's like, I don't know, what's going on there. Something's happening there. But that all being said, let's talk about AC joint injuries real quick. So irrespective of, Frank Reich's potential issues with Matt Ryan, a grade 2 AC joint injury is pretty bad. And it's his throwing shoulder too. So it's a separation of the joint where the collarbone meets the shoulder. So there's damage to the joint there. There's elevation of the clavicle, and there's actually damage to other ligaments that are here in the front part of the chest. So this is a bad injury. And this is probably going to cost him multiple weeks anyway. This would probably
it couldn't be worse than what they have right now,
anyway.
right? They basically have a corpse throwing the football all season this year. So
yeah, well,
sorry, Matt Ryan.
I'm not touching that one, but this is going to cost him multiple weeks regardless, could even require surgery. So could this be, now you got to ask the question, could this be the end of Matty Ice, not just for the season, but could this be his career? I don't know.
He's been awful the last 3-4 seasons, honestly. His touchdown rate's brutal.
Do you know who's awful? Marcus Mariota. He's still got a job. Do you know who's awful? Mitchell Trubisky still got a job. Do you know who's awful?
Job.
Jimmy Garoppolo. There's no difference between Garoppolo and Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's going to get a job.
I think Garoppolo is way better right now than Matt Ryan. I think Matt
Ryan's 38. He doesn't need this. He can, he can go do anything he wants. He's like, I don't.
There's going to be a team. There's going to be a team next year that's going to want to bite the bullet on a vet. You tell me that Carolina are going to want to bite the bullet on Matt Ryan if they can't get a quarterback.
Carolina needs to go after Nathan Rourke if they can't draft a quarterback.
I'm just saying that there's a way to get a veteran QB in like Matt Ryan without actually having to do much. Tampa next year probably without Brady, right? If they have guys that are on stupid amounts of money, that's a chance.
Why don't the Colts go get Brady?
I look at Matt Ryan like Gladys. Matt Ryan doesn't need the Colts like Gladys doesn't need this. She's like, I don't need this crap. She's like, I'm doing you guys a favor by being here. I could walk at any time. And what are you guys going to do about it?
I was going to say, I think Gladys is way better.
You guys
need
to make me happy.
Thank you.
That's what it's all about. So Gladys, you are the Matt Ryan.
Gladys does not retire.
We cater to you.
Well, we also cater to our listeners, and Eric does have another question. So how would you rate his team? Trevor Lawrence, Austin Eckler, DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Pittman, Gabe Davis, Terry McLaurin. I assume that's Christian Kirk. Maybe it's Kirk Cousins. Also having Pat Freiermuth.
I give that team.
It's very good.
I was gonna say it's got to be an A minus at the very worst. I think they mentioned he's got Mostert for a backup running back. That'd be my only concern is only having 3 running backs is maybe not enough depth. To Eric's point of asking the question earlier, I'll bring up the question earlier. This team probably could afford to make a 2-for-1. I think maybe what we're saying is shoot higher than Hopkins. With Pittman, you should be able to get the really elite tier. Can you get a Jalen Waddle or a T. Higgins?
We spoke about this last week, right? About
AJ Brown. AJ Brown might be a good with the bye week pass. So that may be my target for this type of 2-for-1 move. And then that way you fill that extra spot with the running back. Sorry, Dan.
We spoke about this last week. If you're looking at a position of need, the upgrade he needs is at tight end. Right, you could do better than Freiermuth if you have all those really good wide receivers.
You gonna stand for that?
Wait! I love Freiermuth. I'm just saying, this year hasn't really taken off for him, has it? It's not like
he's been out with a concussion or something. He just came back. Last game was his first game.
Pretty sure he's a top 10 tight end, even missing a couple of weeks.
Dan Bellage is a top 10 tight end. Let's not go too far here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What's your standard?
Done. Yeah,
I'm just saying, if you want a position of need, you could go and upgrade him and still not have to go 2-for-1 with Hopkins and receivers. it's a lot of work for nothing. Like, you're trying to get one receiver for two, and those two are probably going to pay off more than what the other guy is anyhow. Like, look at what you need, and if you can find a way to upgrade from him, if I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but like, you go get Kittle. If you can go get Mark Andrews, go do that. Go get those guys. Like,
who's going to give you Mark Andrews for those two guys? That's
well,
right.
if you're but that's the thing.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying, like, you've got to try and go and improve where you feel like you can.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Michael Pittman, to be fair, Michael Pittman is that type of thing. You throw Freiermuth with a Pittman. That's the kind of way that you can get that. And then, like I was saying earlier, you open up a roster spot to get an extra running back in. So to Dan's point, that's kind of the way I actually like that. I think I agree with Doc and Gladys' reaction in that there aren't many tight ends you could upgrade.
There's like 2 or 3, right? I
so go look to those teams first. Try and make a trade with those teams first. If not, then you can look to try and upgrade at wide receiver. But yeah, I do like that. Like, exhaust, like force the Mark Andrews manager to hit reject, right? Or just ignore the offer. But like, go make the offer, right?
The best trade is the what?
I'm gonna make the Mark Andrews on and off. We can't refuse.
Is that Mussolini? Listen, the best trade you can
good.
The best
callback.
The best trade you can make is the one that you send, right? Like, send it off.
That's almost some Wayne Gretzky stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of what me and Kyle, we made a trade this year. The reason why he accepted is because no one else sent them the trade. Like, he accepted mine because I was the only one that sent it to him. Like, a lot of the time,
that's true. There was at least 4 different people who said I would like Brandon Ayuk, and I even sent offers to them, and some didn't reject, but like no one made the effort to actually go send out an offer. Dan did, and like, well, that's easy enough.
Sometimes you're going to send the offer, like, you never know. Someone might say yes. Like, that guy might.
I want to use this pick to go buy back Carson Wentz off Dan later.
Yeah, there we go. That didn't work well. And that worked out well for both of us. But I'm just
not so much.
Oh, so I just got breaking news: the Jets are acquiring James Robinson to replace Breece Hall.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah, I do too. Actually,
that's great. Great for Etienne. Great for Robinson. That sucks for Michael Carter. I just traded.
Oh my god, that is amazing.
And I thought, oh man, like, as much as like it sucks losing Hall, like, okay, that's a perfect kind of benefit to that. Is that one share I had of Michael Carter I just traded for suddenly is a must start every week.
Exactly.
Maybe not anymore. But anyway, so talk about running backs. The Joker with a serious question here. Should I drop Jeff Wilson for Khalil Herbert? And the rest doesn't matter to me because I think it's no joke, absolutely 100%. Khalil Herbert might not do well tonight. We'll talk about that. But it seems like Jeff Wilson's going to be stuck in a 5-way committee that just added Christian McCaffrey and is, if anything, is going to make it so that's not a committee and it's McCaffrey and everyone else. Whereas Herbert
outsnapped everybody yesterday. He outsnapped them and he had more targets than all the running backs yesterday.
We'll ease him in. We'll ease him in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, Jeff Wilson's for sure a drop, I think, in Dynasty redraft. Doesn't matter. Khalil Herbert's in a 50-50 split with David Montgomery at kind of, he probably doesn't have too much pass catching upside. I suppose Wilson, I guess, doesn't have much of that either. It's the 49ers never throw to the running backs. They may have to now with McCaffrey, of course. So yeah, I think all of us would say no hesitation, no joke, drop Wilson for Khalil Herbert. Doc, let's do that right where we talked about. So we could start with Dalton Schultz. I know we've talked about him in the past. It seems like he comes in, comes back. You've kind of said in the past, you want to see him have a full healthy game, productive like his old self before you choose to start him again in a week. And I guess he hasn't necessarily done that yet. We're still waiting.
Yeah, I want to see him have a full healthy game where he's productive and he doesn't get re-injured in the game, and he hasn't done that yet. So until he does that, I think you got to recognize the considerable volatility and risk that he carries, if he does play, because he re-aggravated his injury again. So it's like, it's going to be more of this. And it's like, I don't think you could be confident starting him until you actually see him heal. Maybe it won't be till after the bye week. Maybe that'll be the time where he actually gets some time to rest and recoup. But a tight end is a wasteland, so you may not have a better option. I get that. But, if you do, it's really hard to count on him right now until he gets some rest and is able to kind of heal up.
All right, well, rest up, Doc. Here we go. You got your 3 seconds before Doc's rapid fire. We're going to start with the Broncos. We've got both Russell Wilson and Mike Boone. You're off, Doc.
Okay. And go. So Russell Wilson, hamstring injury, grade 2 partial tear. So he was out week 7. They're saying he's trending to playing in week 8. That doesn't match up with the injury severity. He needs multiple weeks to heal. So I really have my doubts. If they force it and he does play week 8, he'll almost definitely be affected and it can make the injury worse. So you got to proceed with extreme caution here and have a backup at least through their bye week. Brees Hall we already talked about, and now with James Robinson's coming to town, so that kind of throws some cold water on the whole Michael Carter thing. Ezekiel Elliott back on the injury list with a knee contusion. The question is it a soft tissue contusion like a bruise, or is it involving the bone, which is a bone bruise? So a bone bruise is actually an incomplete break, so that's a much bigger issue. Knowing Zeke, he's probably going to play through it regardless of what it is, but he might or maybe even should cede some more work to Tony Pollard. So we just got to watch practice reports on this, be on the lookout for updates. Chuba Hubbard with the now resurgent Carolina running game after Christian McCaffrey leaves. Like, who knew? Allegedly, he could have come back after injuring his ankle in week 7. I suspect that it's a low ankle sprain. He could still be limited or even miss week 8. Donta Foreman looked good as well, so he should pick up any of the slack. So just watch your practice reports on that. Mike Boone, this might be the last that we hear about him for a while. So he injured his ankle. He's on IR, so he's out for 4 weeks minimum. Latavius Murray and Melvin Gordon kind of splitting the work, and Marlon Mack has made a reappearance. So he was signed to the team for the truly desperate who want to handcuff that backfield. So Boone's probably droppable at this point. DeAndre Swift.
Sorry, Doc.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Just us from learning from you, that means high ankle sprain, right? If they immediately put him on IR, they didn't say high ankle sprain.
That makes the most sense, yeah. And that's probably what he's dealing with. Or they just want the roster spot because they're like, look, he's not playing anyway. So, like, we might as well. Now he's got an injury, so we can just free up the roster spot and throw him on IR and get somebody else in there for more depth, especially with the Russell Wilson injury. You figure they're going to skew more towards the run. Speaking of not being able to run, DeAndre Swift, so he was out weeks 4 and 5, and again out in week 7, sandwiched around the bye week. So it's been a month, but he was supposed to be back by now. So his return is still unclear. No guarantees that he's going to be back next week. And I'm really starting to worry that this could be something that's either going to crop up again or could potentially hamper him all year. So definitely raising my worry-o-meter. I think I have him at a 3 out of 5 now. So, no guarantees with anything there. Sticking with the knee injuries, DK Metcalf. So this one could be bad. He's got an injury to his patellar tendon, which is I don't want to get too technical on you guys, but it's in the very not good category as far as knee injuries. So likely going to miss multiple weeks. Severe enough injuries to the patellar tendon require season-ending surgery. The team is saying that that's not on the table right now, but you have to recognize it's coming from Pete Carroll. So you got to take that with a huge grain of salt. Surgery could be needed later. And if DK comes back too soon and he makes the injury worse, then that could be a problem as well. So we got to stay tuned there.
Sorry, Doc, to interrupt again the rapid fire, but just thinking back to the Seahawks, isn't this what Jimmy Graham suffered?
It is. That's a good callback. So he had a severe patellar injury and he basically was done for the year. And I think he was out for a whole year.
Bad Giants memory. Victor Cruz suffered this, right?
That may have been the injury that ended his career, if I'm not mistaken, or for all intents and purposes did. I know
remember it was a game against the Eagles.
Yeah,
and
I think it was.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry about that bad memory.
Yeah, so
you can think of the 6-1 Giants this year. So that's
the point. Is it's a really bad injury. It's not something you want to deal with, and it's not as cut and dried as like an MCL injury or meniscus injury where the timetables are kind of more straightforward and you know what you're dealing with. Like this could go from bad to worse. So really,
if I'm talking about cutting Mike Williams, I think we have definitely probably even more so would be willing to cut DK Metcalf even in redraft.
I wouldn't do it at this point just because you want to wait for confirmation, especially if you're, a team 6-1, 7-0, 5-2, whatever. If he does come back in 5-6 weeks or whatever, then he could still be good for you in the playoffs. But I don't think he's going to be helping you in the short term. So you got to make that determination. Marquise Goodwin had 2 touchdowns, looked good in relief. So he's definitely somebody to take a look at. Mike Williams. Let's see. What are we talking about here?
We got David Njoku with an ankle sprain as well.
We do. So we talked about Mike Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We got Alan Lazard, shoulder injury for the Packers. Kyle, my condolences. So severity and type unknown, was wearing a sling after the game. Doesn't really tell you much, but this could be a dislocation, a subluxation where the shoulder actually comes out of the joint, goes back in, a la Dalvin Cook. Could be an AC joint injury like we've been talking about with the clavicle where it meets the shoulder, or the collarbone where it meets the shoulder here. He could easily miss several weeks, a la DeAndre Swift. So we just got to watch practice reports. Sammy Watkins is a Hail Mary option, literally, for the relatively desperate. Russell Gage has been, dealing with injuries all year. Now he's got a hamstring injury. Severity unclear, but the MRI is pending. A grade 1 injury could cost him anywhere from 0 to 2 weeks. Grade 2, 2 to 4 weeks. And if it's really bad, sometimes they require surgery. I feel like that's less likely at this point, but we just got to be on the lookout for updates. The
Thursday night game for them this week.
Thursday night game. So quick turnaround. I'd say it's unlikely he's available for that. And, the Tampa Bay passing offense hasn't been great to begin with. So, I think he's somebody that you could look to move on from if, you have other needs. Corey Davis is piling on to the Jets' woes. MCL sprain, severity unclear, suspecting a grade 1 injury, which could cost them, 1 to 2 weeks. And again, the bye week is week 10, so they could hold him out until after that. Nico Collins showed up with a groin injury, injured and was unable to return. Severity unclear on this, so just watch the practice reports, but have another option ready for week 8 if he's not ready to go. David Njoku. All right, so here's something. We talk about, is it better to be first or is it better to be right? I would argue it's better to be right. And the reason
that's right.
Initially,
I said that first. Right,
initially reported ankle injury is not serious. Well, apparently, whoever reported that's got a very different definition of not serious compared to me, because this is a high ankle sprain, and that is serious to me if your guy's going to be out for a month, which is what it's going to look like. It could be more. If he comes back sooner than that, expect him to be limited. So again, there's this pull where it's I want the information as soon as the guy's injured. I think it behooves you to wait for the imaging so you can get an accurate diagnosis, so you can make an appropriate decision, as opposed to just saying, well, they said it's not serious, so he's probably fine. Well, he's not fine. He's probably going to be out for a month, and here we are. Daniel Bellinger. So this one was a surprise. Got poked in the eye, and I don't know what they poked him in the eye with, but they broke his orbital bone, and he needs surgery. So, yeah, football's a rough game, man. Expect him to miss multiple weeks. Could even hit the IR, and my guess is he probably does. But not expected to be season ending. So I think we'll see him again. But it's going to be a few weeks. And Dalton Schultz, we talked about. Is there anybody else that I missed?
Well, there's just for the Thursday night game. I mean, Rashad Bateman came back.
Yeah.
I don't think he suffered any setbacks, so we would expect him to, he didn't necessarily wasn't the most productive game. Would you play him coming off a short week now that he's gone through a full game?
No, I'm good. I'm good with that. I don't know if that was game script or, they just wanted to give Gus the bus, the ball a million times or whatever. But Lamar only threw the ball, 16, 17 times or something like that. I think better days are ahead for that whole offense.
He looked efficient when he did. He didn't get a lot. Sorry, but he didn't get a lot of production. But yards after the catch, it looked like he kind of had his explosiveness back. So
yeah, no, he looks good. I mean, Mark Andrews had 0.4 PPR points. So it's I'm starting Mark Andrews next week. So if I'm starting Mark Andrews after that, then I'm starting Rashad Bateman after his game, and scene.
And that, of course, anything, if you want to access the doc, of course, on Twitter at TFSDoc, the fantasy sports doc, but also you can check out the goingfor2.com Discord, Discord/goingfor2. And Doc has his own injury channel there where you can ask him anything. And again, we've got tons of different channels about so many things, betting, prop bets, and that can help you. Let's say you go to No House Advantage, for instance, and you want to sign up for their prop betting contests. You can use the promo code GF2, capital G, capital F, the number 2, for a deposit match up to $25. They'll match whatever you put in up to $25, and you can create bet on prop contests. I believe it's you pick up to 5 props, and if you get all 5 right, you get 20 times your entry. So I think the idea of No House Advantage is you're not playing against the house, you're playing against other people, and you're playing against it to get it right as well. So there's a leaderboard with everyone's picks. So again, join No House Advantage today. And as we're talking about picks and props, let's get to the Monday night game after we answer a couple questions. So I guess relating to the Monday night game, actually, we'll touch on that in a sec. But so this doesn't relate to it. So 12-man PPR have Mahomes, Eckler, Walker, Pittman, Hopkins, Andrews, Deontay Johnson on my bench, Gabe Davis, and Travis Etienne. Just got a trade offer of DeAndre Hopkins. I was gonna say, is it Hopkins for Pittman and Gabe Davis? No, it is. Got a trade offer of DeAndre Hopkins and Etienne for Stephon Diggs.
Not now, no.
I don't know, Gladys. What do you think about that?
No. Etienne's now the only guy in the backfield for that team. So, and Diggs, you have Gabe Davis. That I think to me that would
I would. To your point, Gladys, I would try to move Gabe Davis to get Diggs. Can you do Hopkins and Gabe Davis for Diggs? I would counter with that.
Wait, hold on, timeout. So let me just throw this out there. What's wrong with having both of those guys from Buffalo, especially as you're going towards the playoffs? Somebody gets hurt, you automatically got the replacement on your team. You're building insurance. Like, I get it. You always want to shoot for upside, but as we get closer towards the end of the year, you know what the doc always talks about. Insurance is great. You hope you never need it, but if you don't have it, you get left with empty pockets. You don't want to have this great team get to the end and then Stephon Diggs misses a week because he gets a concussion or something like that, and you traded Gabe Davis away, who would then be elevated to like a low grade, wide receiver 1, high wide receiver 2. And there's nothing wrong with having both of those guys. They're both startable on any given week. So if it were me, you guys know I don't like to do trades. I would do this trade.
I like the idea of trying to move Hopkins after what he did last week. Like, striking while the iron's hot, I get it. I like the idea of trying to move him. I would be trying to package him to move on. I don't think I'd be moving ETN at this point.
Keep your running back depth of Eckler, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, run with those three, and that's why I was thinking Davis might be a good target, because you're giving them a piece of that Bills offense. They're losing Diggs, but you still get access to that Bills offense. Let's say they don't go for that. Do you have to give up Deontay and D-Hop, or even Pittman and D-Hop?
Yeah, I mean, if you could move Deontay, you probably should at this point, because it's tough. And I'm not hating on the Steelers.
I was going to say, Gladys, you got to stand for that Deontay slander now.
I can see you. No,
Dan, you're telling on yourself today. You're telling on yourself this week. You just
Gladys knows where Gladys knows where I stand with the Steelers. She knows where I'm at. Big fan of the Steelers. I wish they did better. It sucks that they're not. It really does. I'm a big Deontay Johnson guy, but it's not working at the moment. It's tough. It's great for Pickens. It's fantastic. Paul's popped off every now and again, but Johnson, it's like 4 for 40, and it's tough. If you can move him for an upgrade, yes, absolutely.
So this is really important. This is really important. Kyle, do you know who the backup running back is who stands to get a bump in production now? James Robinson? I know. You know, but does Kyle know?
I know.
Who is it?
JaMycal Hasty, baby.
JaMycal Hasty season is finally
upon us.
5 years. How long you been waiting for this?
3 years. This is his third year. He was Jonathan Taylor's draft class.
You've been trying to make JaMycal Hasty a thing for 3 years. This could finally be it. It could finally.
It's crazy. The last 2-3 weeks have been insane for the my guys running backs. Like, because JaMycal Hasty a couple weeks ago had a 60-yard touchdown run. Deion Jackson was active and he had a great game. Keontae Ingram did amazing on Thursday night. Got was it 2 touchdowns? He got 1 touchdown, I think. But so the my guy running backs last 3 classes all coming up roses for them. Hasty, Jackson, and Keontae Ingram. So. I'll be more. Dan knows I'll be really insufferable. But we'll talk about the Giants again.
Wait, what did we decide for him? Yes or no?
Well, you guys all said no, and I said yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So I guess So stock boys, take stock of what we said, and again, I think we made some offers.
I don't think I ever say yes to any trades, and I said yes to that trade. So I feel like that should mean something.
To get Diggs, right? If it's getting the wide receiver 2 in fantasy right now, like that's the thing that makes you say hell yes, right?
Absolutely. Get as many pieces of that offense as possible, and then in the playoffs, you got that explosivity. Oh baby.
Eric is asking, do I drop Russell Wilson for Daniel Jones? I'm shocked Daniel Jones is still available at this point. I think this is a hard pick, right, everyone?
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, let's go.
All right. One more here, and then we'll get to the Monday night game, I swear. Keep your league. Keep Breece Hall, lose a 4th-round pick, or Joe Burrow, lose 7th-round pick. First-year ACL is bad, but not ready to drop Breece yet. I'd assume this is not something you have to decide right now, but...
Yeah, if you could delay this as long as you can.
I think the thing is it a 1-quarterback league, or is it a super flex or a 2-quarterback league?
Well, if it's a super flex 2-quarterback league, Burrow's never going to the 7th round. So I'm making the assumption it's a 1 QB league.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, in that case, if you got to make the decision now, I would go with keep Breece Hall. But if it's a super flex or 2-quarterback league, then you keep the quarterback.
And I think Slayer 1200, you would know, is your league, even though he does mention 1 QB, are quarterbacks kept often in your league? Like, how the other managers act. Is it something where quarterbacks are tough to get? That would be maybe the only reason I would keep Burrow, because it is, the extra 3 rounds is maybe decent value. But yeah, I think one QB, give me the running back, especially Hall. Let's say next year we get news that, okay, he won't be ready to start the year, but you can expect him for most of the season. He's probably going in the 4th round. You're probably not losing too much value there. Where, Burrow's probably also going in the 7th round. So both of them are probably okay value for where they're going. But yeah, I guess asking, is there any fear, hesitation keeping Hall? At this point, I'd say no. But again, we'd all make the assumption you don't have to make this decision right now necessarily. And this might also impact, are they trying to trade away Breece Hall? And if so, like, don't let this be the reason that you stop you. Like, if you can get a good deal for Breece Hall, and it, as a result, means you have to keep Burrow, I think we're okay with that too.
Agreed.
All right, so Monday Night Football. Bears, Patriots. We don't have any more Broncos games on Monday night, but now we enter where we have a couple Patriots games, and unfortunately includes the Bears here. So
you guys want to move the lines again? You guys screwed me last week. You keep changing the lines. Like we pick, and then you move the lines, and then I end up with a tie instead of a
technically underdog.
Underdog's
moving the lines.
Give them the standings while you're at it.
So yeah, it was 39.5. I think going up to 40, it's still the lowest projected total from any game this week. So Patriots favored by 8.5. I mean, I guess we do have a question regarding this. Is from Super C&B Challengers. I need 17 points from Ramondre in full point PPR. Do we think that's possible?
Keep the faith. Keep the faith.
Yeah.
I think it's touchdowns. If he scores a touchdown, he's probably getting 17. If he doesn't score a touchdown, that might be tough. So I think you have to make him a touchdown.
I'd say this. I think this game is going to be heavily featured on the ground. So he's going to get the work, I would think. So, yes, you're a chance, but those scores are going to...
So you're telling me there's a chance. I like the chances there.
There's a chance.
So just, recapping some of our decisions last week. Actually, this is the first time this has happened all year. All 4 of us got our prop picks right. And if you want to make prop picks as well, join the the promo code GF2. You can also use it on Underdog if you want to join Underdog to make their picks. A lot of the projections and the predictions we're showing and we talk about tonight come from Underdog. So that's our sponsor. Our sponsor, right, Dan? The sponsor sponsors us this show. That is a sponsored show.
100% up to $100.
Unless you live in Colorado. You cannot do pick them from
Underdog's not available in Canada either.
You can do other things in Colorado that aren't Underdog,
which we can also do in Canada.
Exactly.
So yeah,
so it's
the trade-off, right?
What's
I
up?
can still play CFL.
It's not all bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unlike
because I don't understand their drafting, so I've got money there. I've drafted 4 times and.
All right, so I guess the first thing we talk about is these projections. So 40 for the combined over/under on the game, and then again Patriots by 8.5. So anyone want to plant their flag on the reason?
Well, I want to plant a flag on. You should give everybody the standings up to this point. So before we make our picks, so
of course, Doc. Doc is still leading at 15-4-2. Not the rest of us are kind of gaining. Dan's at 12-7-2. I'm at 11-8-2 because last week the Broncos and Chargers, they just had to lower that line to 3, right? Because it was exactly 3. To be fair, Doc, we were going to go Chargers at 4.5 or 4, and we would have lost it, and Dan would have won by picking the Broncos. So now we all tie and we're all together. So
life's full of disappointments, but I will persevere.
Well, again, we're about to watch the Bears and Patriots on Monday Night Football. I'm sure lots of people are disappointed.
Speaking of disappointments.
So I think it's funny because the reason I'm picking lower than 40 is because I don't think the Bears can keep up. I don't think their offense can keep up to the point where my thinking was I was either going to go Bears and higher. Like if they could, if I thought the Bears were good enough to keep within 8.5, it would be enough points to hit the over or hit the higher. Sorry, damn. But because it's not the case, as Dan so eloquently put in our notes for the show, just Matt Jones returning, Damian Harris returning from the hamstring injury, and Chicago notes 0. Their whole team is a pile of fecal matter. Does that count? And I think it does. That's the note. So anyway, I'll just start by saying I'm going lower again. Ever since week 1, and the higher didn't work. I'm just pick lower almost every week, and it actually has worked out. So I'll stick with that here.
I was thinking about this, and I nearly went Pats. I actually originally went Pats higher. I actually went with Pats higher. I think lower is the safe bet, but we're trying to find an edge here within what we're doing. But I was sitting there thinking, can the Bears get the 10? I think they can get the 10 points. Can the Pats get the 30, 31? Can the Pats absolutely put them through the ringer? And I think they can. We've seen them surprise at times, whether it was Zap or Mac Jones. They can put up a decent amount of points. It's boring as hell to watch, but they can. So I was sitting there thinking, can the Bears get 12 points? I think they're able to do that off the boot of Cairo Santos. So I'm going with that. So
no kickers. Hey, hang on, no kickers.
I'm all for it. Listen, if
even though Doc picked a kicker last week for his
that's right,
and which you got right. Take a job on the free field goal.
Listen, it's a good bet to make, but I kind of think if the Bears, they're going to struggle. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. But they've pulled off the odd shock play here or there. They've got it in them. Can they get you to 12 points? Can the Patriots get you to 28? I think so, but it'll be. I don't even know if I'm going to watch this. That's where I'm at. I've put my bet in. I might just go do something else. The Knicks are playing right now.
I got to complain about the Packers on the Full Press Packers pod after this. So that'll be more enjoyable.
Call back from Friday night. He's gonna be playing the drums next week instead of watching.
So Dan's the only one who took higher. The three of us took lower. Gladys,
no,
you're the only one.
I didn't make my pick yet, but Gladys, you go.
Oh well, in the official show sheet, it says.
No, I know it's in the show sheet, but the people don't know, so you got to tell the people.
Well, that's kind of why I was saying it. To be honest, was to kind of just get that out and reveal it. But,
tell the people what you want, Gladys.
Well, yeah. So Gladys, you went lower, but you're the only one who picked the Bears as 8.5 point underdog. So you're saying that they can keep up with the Patriots, and that's.
I'm saying they will keep up with the Patriots. Yes.
But now by also going lower, you're thinking that it's just their defense is going to shut down the Patriots' offense, and like both teams will be.
Not necessarily. I think that Matt Patricia is going to shut down the Patriots' offense, but
this is Gladys saying. This is Gladys's nice way of saying this is a shit show. That's it. Yeah, I'm taking the Bears, but the Patriots are garbage as well. This is what she wants to say. You can just let it out, Gladys. Just get it out.
So Doc, anyway, you can share. You went lower. You went with the Patriots. If you want to add anything we haven't said, feel free.
Yeah, the only thing that I'll add is that you can't make this game line low enough for me not to take the lower. Like I can't do it. Like I'm not going to put myself in a position where I'm like hoping that Justin Fields all of a sudden like puts it all together. And I like Justin Fields, but it's like I feel like this game is just that's the way I'm going with it. So I realize it's a really low total and it seems low, but it's like I could see this game going like 17-6 or something like that, like 20-29, like just
the Patriots
really
did just beat an NFC North team 29-0, which would be the lowest.
Yeah, so I mean that I could see that too, and I think Justin Fields, might create some problems for him, but I don't know. It's just good, I think Belichick's still the greatest defensive mind, maybe ever in the game. Justin Fields has done worse against less. So, I don't like his chances this week. Prove me wrong, Justin. Prove me wrong.
New England are 3-3 this year at over and under. So they're going at 50%. And as the home team, they are 1-1. So, yeah, middle of the field with that.
I did think this was quite a big spread. Like I did almost consider taking the Bears to Gladys's credit, but because this was just on the reach.
They're 3-2-1 against the spread.
Well, because they've been such big underdogs most of the time. Everyone hates the Bears, right? So this is interesting. I thought it would be close. And now I guess we can get to the prop picks. So it's funny, Gladys and Doc, you're both kind of tied with your picks, and that you're both taking quarterbacks going lower. Doc, you've got Mac Jones. What is it? 28.5 pass attempts lower, which is funny. You're taking a quarterback of the team you picked lower, and Gladys, you're also taking the quarterback of the team you picked lower. But yeah, so feel free to share anything you want, Doc.
Yeah, I just think that Mac Jones coming off the injury, like if this game gets out of hand, they may just bench him and bring Zappy in, so he doesn't throw much. And let's say the Pats are up, 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, that may be it for Mac Jones. So, kind of thinking that they're going to want to run the ball, as Dan said, and also that there's a non-zero chance that he doesn't finish the game. Either he gets re-injured or they take him out because they're winning. And that's kind of the thought process behind it.
All right, so Gladys, you've got Justin Fields lower than 165.5 passing yards. So interesting that you're picking the Bears, and I mean, 8.5 point underdogs doesn't mean they have to win necessarily, but it's funny that you're picking the Bears, but also Fields to go lower.
Yeah, two other sites have them at like 159.5 passing yards and 160 passing yards. So I went lower because of statistical anomalies.
And you've talked about that in the past. Like, and Dan, I know you talk about this on your Friday show. Is you'll shop around your lines, and you wouldn't make this bet on other sites, but this is the type of bet you'll make on underdog. On other sites, you'll be looking for a different stat. You won't go with the Fields. In fact, you might go over on that, or you might just ignore it entirely.
Exactly.
All right, and then Dan, you went with Devontae Parker. Higher than 2 receptions.
You know how I feel about bottom feeding? This is
Devontae Parker, bottom feeder. Yeah, that sounds about right.
You know how I feel about bottom feeding? Look, he has his moments like with the Patriots. One week he'll pop off, and the next week he does literally zero. So it's the Devontae Parker ride. That's how it's been since he's come into the league. But in a game like this, where again I believe everything that we've said today, I feel like is going to happen. Doc saying under 28.5 pass attempts. Yeah, I don't think Parker's going to need more than 4 to cross that line in that regard. And that's
4 targets.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to need more than 4 targets to go over. And they could be
catch 50%. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be very cheap wins for him in this regard. And I looked at it and I went, yeah, I mean, the Bears are just terrible across the board at their backline. Sans Robert Quinn, he's awesome, but the rest of them are kind of garbage. So, it's just one of those things where I thought this might be the quickest way to get to a result.
No, and that's a good point. And so it's funny. I still haven't fully decided. I've got 3. I think I know what I'm going with, but I'll kind of walk through the people, in the process for people. So
you can't decide once the game starts, Kyle.
All right, so I'm going. Well, my top one is Jacoby Myers, higher than 54.5 receiving yards. So that's most likely what I'm going with in case I run out of time. And I think the reason
most likely.
Well, because the reason
let's just say he gets the first pass.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see
it's not like my co-hosts are competing against me, and I want to get their advice or anything and to see what they think. But the idea behind Myers is I don't understand the line setting. He's gone over that every single game this year. So to me, this was an easy hire. Myers leads the team in targets. He has more catches than anyone else on the team has targets this year. So he's very clearly the alpha. And it doesn't even matter who the quarterback is. Like Zappe was targeting him. Mac Jones back certainly should target him a lot. So especially coming off the ankle injury, the slot receiver, shallow depth of target. I was also considering 4.5 catches, but he's actually hit lower than that twice, even though he's hit the yards higher than. So it was weird how they set the yard line at what was it again, 54.5. So I think he'll go higher than that. The other 2 I was thinking about were the Bears to deal with the Bears running back. I'm officially taking Myers, but I just wanted to kind of just talk these out as these are potentials as well.
I thought Khalil Herbert at 33.5 was interesting.
Well, I thought that too.
The other 7 I was thinking about were
no. I'm taking Myers. I'm taking Myers. That was my number 1 pick anyway.
The greatest hedge of all time.
I don't want to pick the Bears. I think that's mostly what that's about. I don't want to choose the Bears. But
that's such a Mussolini move. That's what Mussolini would do. He just had.
Not touching that one.
Because I got a feeling I know what Mussolini would do. I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to dictate everything, but I do want to keep going. So just talk about Khalil Herbert. I was thinking about the split with him and Montgomery. It seems that on the ground, Herbert's gotten more yards than Montgomery every game except week 2 when Montgomery against the Packers had 120 yards. So part of me was thinking the rivals actually on Herbert to Montgomery. It's I wrote it down. I think it's 20 and a half yards rushing. They're giving they're giving Herbert. So I think that's enough to breed that gap. Part of my thinking is Montgomery won't get enough rushing yards to even make a 20-yard difference, right? That's more just about Montgomery not failing to meet any expectations. So I thought that would be good. And then also though, they still use Montgomery as a pass catcher. So to Dan's point of bottom feeding, Montgomery at 11.5 receiving yards, I thought was pretty tempting too, just because they seem to still want him as the 3rd down back. But again, I'm going with Jacoby Myers. The game's already started, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
Got a couple of questions I will touch on real quick that thankfully don't have to do with the game. You willing to trade T. Higgins? I assume it's T, not Rashad. And you need a wide receiver, running back. Who do you target? Jeez.
If you're wanting to, why would you want to trade Higgins?
There you
Would be
go.
my
That's
question.
the answer.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
We'll make the easy thing. No, don't trade T. Higgins. Yeah. There you go.
Don't
That's
trade
the
Higgins.
answer.
There you go. So we're not willing to trade Higgins. Sorry, Sean. Any realistic expectations for Montgomery? Up 11 in fantasy. Opponent just has him tonight. Up by 11. Again,
You're in trouble.
I don't think Montgomery's scoring a touchdown, so I think you're probably safe.
This is you.
I guess
for the next 3 hours.
Yeah,
That's
so you can't help
you.
it. That's a low enough total that it could happen. Especially in PPR, if he catches enough
With
passes,
PPR,
that might
you're
be
in
scary.
trouble. That's
I think
the
you're
deal.
probably fine though.
Okay. And Jackie has to go to the bathroom. He's letting me know.
We'll head out of here. This is the 2-point Monday night conversion. We've got Gladys at Gladys L. Tyler. Dan's at the B League Says, or he's at
And
Discord Dan.
hashtag-
He's not actually at Discord Dan. He's at the B League Says, but he is known as Discord Dan. Doc's at TFS Doc. I'm at Center Says. We'll see you all next week on the
Happy
Monday night
Halloween!
conversion.
Bye.
Yeah, happy Halloween. That'll be right. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.